All right, you want me to go ahead and
All
bring
right,
it?
welcome. This is Pathways to Peace Symposium. We're halfway through. We are had some amazing speakers already, and we've got a bunch more. Here comes Dr. O, one of my favorite speakers and one of my favorite people. We went to high school together, it turns out, many years ago. No offense, but it's my birthday, and so I could talk about how many millions of years have gone past. So take it, Dr. O. He's been teaching EQ and other motion related subjects in colleges in the United States and universities in the United States, and has some amazing experiences with that. He's had me as a guest speaker in a number of them, which has been really fun. I love the way he teaches, and I love his subject matter. And so off you go, bud.
Okay, well, happy birthday, Matt. Happy birthday to you.
Yes.
And what a really cool way to spend your birthday. Very innovative and exciting. And looks like you have so many wonderful people here. So thank you for including me, inviting me in this process. And thank everybody else for being here. Really appreciate it. So yes, Matt and I went to high school, many moons ago. And about 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, somehow on Facebook, we discovered that we had this commonality of teaching and cheerleading for emotional intelligence. It was just very uncanny that our pathways led us to doing this. Matt, is a rock star, and I don't know where you find the energy. But I do teach emotional intelligence, both in the academic setting and in the corporate setting. So emotional intelligence just came to me. A professor couldn't teach the class, and they asked, can you do it? And that's usually how my career in academia has happened. Someone's sick, and can you do it? And they give you a syllabus. Good luck. And it kept following me for like 3 years. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to get away from it, but it just kept following me. And so then it led me to an academic class. So I teach an entire academic class at the University of Virginia. Now I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. I don't drive down, that's a 7-hour drive, but I do it online. I do everything online. And so I teach an entire class to students, but then within my other classes at the University of Pennsylvania, and I do teach at some other colleges, I embed emotional intelligence into that course. For example, I'm teaching a leadership class for nurses at the University of Pennsylvania this semester. And one of the topics for leadership is emotional intelligence. So we have them, do an entire lecture on that. I'm also a corporate consultant and coach. I coach leaders at all levels, and I go into corporate offices and brand new managers. I will do an emotional intelligence course. And so that's my expertise. I do come from human resource management, and I worked as a practitioner in HR, recruiting, selection, employee relations, training and development. And so that's how I got my pathway. And now emotional intelligence is so strong. The softer skills are out there. And so that's just a little bit about what I do. Is I do the corporate academic teaching and corporate consulting. And I have to tell you, the past couple of years, as all of you may have observed, is a little frustrating to see what's going on with students. Students bring their emotions to the classroom. The gentleman who spoke before on SEL, that's typically designed for children. I see that in my adults. My adult students act and behave, or can act and behave very similarly. Now, just real quickly, the type of students I teach nurses, I teach allied health, respiratory radiology, EMT. I teach MBA students and sociology students. So I love the fact that I have this broad brush of students, and their careers and academics all connect to each other. It's really interesting. So when Matt asked me to talk about peace, what ran through my mind was immediate. In my emotional intelligence class, I created this assignment for students to do at the end of the semester. It was a self-reflection paper. I thought, they're learning emotional intelligence. So how will they, if you will, get it? How will they understand emotional intelligence? So they do a lot of activities in the classroom, and they do it online, and they have discussion boards. But I thought to really understand this, I would create a self-reflective paper that I would ask them to write. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. So what I do in this class is it's pretty, academic. It's like EQ 101. It's just an overview of emotional intelligence. The students come, some have heard of it, many have not heard of emotional intelligence. And it's a basic overview of EQ, or emotional intelligence. And we follow the concepts of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness or empathy, and relationship management. Very basic, we follow that. I do use a lot of my readings for the students, Daniel Goleman. I default a lot to him. He's not the only person in emotional intelligence, the only scholar, the only motivator. There are many. One day, Matt, your books are going to be in my classes too. But, I even default to his 1995 book, very famous, still top on the top 5 leadership books, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. This is an old book, but there are hallmarks there. Now, I certainly use more current books about emotional intelligence, but in this class, we're talking about the basics, and the students are learning how to connect emotional intelligence both to their work and to their home lives. Now, they do take a test at the beginning of the semester. I'm just opening the door. I'm just, that old metaphor, let the horse out of the barn. It's kind of a little dangerous, but I just have them take a test. And again, I'm not getting any residuals. This is Emotional Intelligence 2.0, Bradbury and Greaves. This is an old school book, but what I like about it is it just gives an overview of emotional intelligence, and they take a test and they get a sense of where they lie within these 4 dichotomies of emotional intelligence. Now, what I have to tell you folks is these students are really frustrated. The majority are not happy with their scores. They take the test. At the beginning of the semester, we talk about their scores, and there are some that are sad, cranky, unhappy. Many think that they are more emotionally aware than what their scores reflect. And I always say, this is an opportunity for you to learn. If you choose to, if you want to work on your emotions, this is an opportunity to do that. So don't take your score so harshly. By the way, this book allows you a second time. Now, some people take it right away and they still come up with poor scores. So I'm like, wait till the semester's over, take that class. Take that test again. Again, this is not highly academic. This is more of a skills practice that I'm doing with them. So what we do is after they have taken the test, they reflect, then we talk about the fundamental concepts throughout the semester. We talk about emotional intelligence, how it impacts your life, how it impacts your work. How does emotional intelligence connect with your family, your community? What are the things that you do well, and what are the things that you may need to enhance? So then comes the self-reflection. They're looking at things. I invite, I think it's an engaging class. I invite wonderful speakers like Matt into the class to give his perspective. I have other folks that come in and talk about it, academic, non-academic. And we do a lot of activities, and we discuss and we talk and we learn in breakout rooms, and there are case studies and readings and videos, YouTube videos, TED Talk. And so this all builds upon what they're learning so they can get to that endpoint to better understand the concepts of emotional intelligence and then their learning. And so we go over each of these 4 dichotomies individually. I have a lecture to go deep into each of these. We talk about, again, personal and professional lives. We discuss conflict at work, conflict at home. We talk about bias and stereotyping. Gender comes in. We talk about trigger points. What are your triggers? And who are some people in your life, or what are some things that might trigger you to maybe be frustrated? I even bring in the counterbalance to emotional intelligence. There's an article from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton scholar Adam Grant, and he has an article from 2014, 2015 on the dark side of emotional intelligence and how emotional intelligence can really be manipulated, especially like someone like a salesperson or a politician. I won't go down the road any that I think, but there are some manipulation of emotional intelligence. So we want to look at emotional intelligence and look at all sides of it, not just the positive upbeat, because there are all sides of emotional intelligence. And so this is what we talk about. Students are then asked to self-reflect. So then we come to this self-reflection paper. And this is something, again, at the end of the semester, because I really feel strongly they need to reflect upon their scores, reflect upon what they've learned. I asked them to write a paper, 5 to 9 pages. That's a lot. And I get from many of them, oh my God, I got to this paper and oh, this was so painful. This was really hard. This was tough for me to start to reflect. The thing that astounds me is I get a lot of feedback in these papers on, wow, you asked me to do this, Dr. Oliver, but I really reflected upon my life. I went back to the past. I went back to a time when I may have had some abuse from a family member, a parent. I reflected upon this job I'm in. I don't like my job. I don't like the manager. I don't like the company. I reflected upon something that really was horrible in this. And I asked them to reflect upon each of those 4 principles of emotional intelligence, their scores, and then what's their takeaway? What is their takeaway? What did they learn from this? And again, it's just really astounding what I get. The majority of the students say, wow, this was a really powerful exercise. You got me to think really deeply. You got me to honestly look at something that may be going on with me currently that's reflective of the past. I'm now more self-aware. Some say, I'm now going to my job. I'm now going to my wife or my children or to my best friend, my partner, and understanding how I'm responding to them. And so it's truly powerful. This was not my true intention. My true intention of this assignment was to just see, what did they learn? But I get these really powerful things. And many say to me, thank you very much for this exercise. I really appreciate this. Now, another thing that I do is what's called an action plan. And I ask the students, what do you hope to do going forward? You have 4 scores from this test. Can you choose just one that you would like to work on? I mean, there are so many students and people that want to work on everything, and it's really difficult. You need to find just one area. Maybe your self-management, your self-regulation score was low. So can you work on that? Can you find a trusted advisor, a trusted person who can give you honest feedback on how you're doing? Set a time frame and try to work on that. And many try to do that. I have actually gotten emails 2 or 3 years later. I'm still working on my emotional intelligence. I got one earlier this year and I was like, oh my God, I haven't heard from that student in a couple of years. And she is still working on emotional intelligence. The other thing that I have the honor to do at the University of Virginia, I am what's called a capstone mentor. The students who graduate have to write a paper. And so they have a faculty member who guides them through, the rules and regulations of the paper, and then writing, grammar, APA. I never thought that I would be the APA, American Psychological Association king, edits, commas, quotes. That's never what I thought I would do, but it is interesting to help navigate them through this paper. And many write a capstone on EQ and their career. I've had students write about emotional intelligence in radiology departments in a hospital, respiratory therapy. How can emotional intelligence help them? One of my favorites was emotional intelligence and canines, and how dogs can help you better understand your emotional intelligence. You have a dog right there, Matt. By the way, I love dogs and cats and children in my class. I get them all the time. I love when cats walk underneath the nose, the tail. That's great. But that was great. I had another one that talked about emotional intelligence and road rage in the Washington, D.C. area. Predominantly men have more road rage than women, but women, you're coming up equally to road rage. There's road rage everywhere. It's insane. Unfortunately, we have carjackings here in Philadelphia. But the whole point is the student gave some antidotes or some recommendations on how to use emotional intelligence. So that's a whole nother piece that just ran through my brain as I was talking is some of the students who come in my class translate their emotional intelligence into these capstone papers, and they're really amazing. And it's research based and it's evidence based, and a lot of them give applications to their discipline where they're working. So this is, I'm probably going to end quicker than you may have wanted, but this is just something that I thought would help. So how does this translate to peace? So, by this self-reflection, by looking at yourself, reflecting, understanding, and by the way, I ask everyone to be honest when they fill out these scores. Try not to manipulate it, because many of these behavioral-based scores ask you the same question in different contexts. So, but I say be yourself. And some are like, well, I act this way at work, I act this way at home. And I'm like, well, take your whole self and be honest and take these scores and really try to commit to improving one area. And so this, to me, the piece that comes in is, again, with these really dramatic stories of, as a child, I was abused. As a child, we were poor. I've been in this job for 15 years and I don't like my job. I don't like my life. I think by taking this test and then going through this class and going through some of the concepts that we talk about, this truly helps to bring peace towards many people. Now, this test and the class is not going to cure everything. But again, as I said, it opens the door. It opens the door to trying to start to resolve and find peace. And as I mentioned, I'm amazed at some of the students who come back to me year after year and say, Professor Oliver, that was a really great course. Now, when I do this in the corporate setting, when I go into a company, sometimes it's an all-day emotional intelligence course, and I do get a lot of ahas there then. So this, it's like, this is where I can use this with that one manager who's not so great, or that customer who's a real pain that we always have to deal with. This is how I can do this. So I think that really, really helps. So that pretty much is my presentation, my comments, and I welcome any questions, and I hope that this may have helped out. It's just really amazing to me how one simple assignment, a paper, can really help to bring peace to people, what I've discovered. So that's pretty much it. And any questions or thoughts?
The thing that came up for me was Matt has a worksheet, I guess that's what you would call it, where he has people write down an event that happens, and then the meaning you put to it, and then what other meaning you could put to it. Have you seen that?
I think I have seen that. In the directions, I do ask about, yes, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
I may, if Matt's okay, I might attach that to the assignment this summer. I mean, I do ask about, past experiences in their lives, but this is great. This is specific. That's a great comment.
Because that would fit in, it sounds like that would fit into what you were saying.
Yes,
The
definitely.
idea of, what else could you think? What else could you feel? To be able to change that. I
Yeah, we
really
use this in our
appreciate
work.
what you've shared.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty exciting for me.
Yes, but I
This-
love your suggestion there. I'm always doing continuous improvement. And so I think that's great. If we can talk, Matt's coming this summer to guest lecture, so we'll twist his arm to borrow this.
Okay. It's also on the last page of my book, and I put it rather than just describing it, I turned it and put it in the last page of the book so you can put it on the copy machine and make a copy of a full-size page. The concepts here are docs. They're event, meaning, feeling, behavior is his flow. All I did was take it and put it into boxes so that we could use it in our workshop to help people process through what they decided on based on what happened. So I find it useful. You're welcome to it, Dr. O, if you want.
Beautiful.
And yep, we had some major life changes because of it, because when people can figure out the meaning that they put on the event that happened and then the feeling that came from that, but mostly the meaning, then they go, wow, wow. Because a lot of times, as I'm sure you know, people make decisions as a child about how life is, how they fit in, how they don't fit in, that sort of thing, and stay with them. They stick with them. They're not aware that they made those decisions, but they're living on those decisions. And it's a really helpful to make yourself aware and to work through this process. So thanks, Doc. Good point.
Great point.
Yep.
Any other comments or thoughts?
Yeah, great presentation. I sure appreciated the whole self-reflection thing. I'm sorry Bill got off because he's a really big fan of self-reflection. Is key to the whole thing. I think it's super cool that you have them write it. I'll bet you you get some pushback pretty heavy sometimes. We're like, no. I'm like, yes. You're not gonna like it, but you got to do it, right?
Yep.
It ain't always fun, but it's got to get done, is how I put it.
Exactly.
So yeah, right on.
Exactly.
Right on. Yep. And the well, it's just, that's the key. It seems like one of the keys to the whole thing is about figuring out who you are, what you decided, what you feel, what you think. It's going inward. And at the beginning of the COVIDs, we had a cool saying that we were using a lot is, if you can't go outside, go inside.
Right.
Yeah, and I still use that. I like it. Whether you can go outside or not, you go inside, because that's where all the answers are. So so I was trying to go along with you, Dr. O, as you were talking, and put it in the chat. I like the EI 2.0. You guys, assessing is a real cool way to get aware of yourself, just like it's a self-reflection thing. The EI, isn't the EI one, is it more business oriented or no? It's more, can you say more about it? I've never taken it, actually. I have the book, but I did a mistake, which you told me about, is if you buy a used one, you may not get the test, right? You got to buy a new one. So
one thing I wanted to share with all of you, this is an older tool. There are many other tests out there. There are some that are 120 questions. You may know about this. They're very expensive. It can be $55 to $300 to take an EQ test. But if you want to go deep into that, you can do that. This one is about $15. It's on Amazon. You're right. In the back is a tab. You don't want a pre-owned one because there's a code. You can also do this through ebooks. You can do this through Kindle. You can do an online. Talent Smart is the tool, the company that you can do this through. But you want to, I always say, you want to try and take these EQ or any behavioral assessment tests when you're in a relative good mood, I've had students come home and angry at work and take the test, and woo, look out. So try to take this on a more even keel. If your kids and your dogs and cats are driving you crazy, go into the other room, all right? Or go to a coffee shop by yourself. But again, it's just a way to self-reflect. And I like the fact that they give you a second time to take this test a second time. The other thing I like about this book is they have simple strategies for each of those modalities, things you can do once you've learned them. So for an example, a strategy can be, let me just find it real quickly. I've got 2 minutes here. Say for example, you're trying to work on your self awareness, self-awareness. Here are self-awareness strategies. So they give like 15 steps that you can do. They're simple, they're easy. Know what your emotions are, lean into your discomfort, visit your values, check yourself, seek feedback from others, quit treating feelings as good or bad. I mean, they just are. Know your emotions physically. What are your physical and emotions? And so these are just simplistic, simplistic things that you can do. Social awareness. Greet people by name. Watch your body language, their body language. Try to clear out the clutter in your life. I need to do that. Try to, test for accuracy. Walk in the shoes or step into the shoes of others. That to me is the biggest takeaway of that dichotomy. We can't always understand what the other person's going through, but we can try our best to understand. And the mood of the room, and many of you are facilitators, teachers, educators, and I'm sure when you go into meetings, even on Zoom, you can go into a Zoom meeting and you see the nonverbals, that energy. So that's another thing I like about that particular book, is these real simplistic strategies to work with these dichotomies, and they can apply this also to what they're writing.
Nice.
Right now, I'm writing an article kind of based on the same thing. I'm taking the concept of self-image, and there's a lot of tests about self-image. Do you have a good one, bad one, whatever? And I'm making that in comparison to your EQ and success. So your IQ and EQ together, and putting that with success as in your work and in your personal life. The higher your self-image, the higher you will score in the success. So that will come out, what is today? It'll be on the 15th. I send that out. So it's an interesting concept of looking at self-image and at the same time success, because they go in lockstep.
Nice.
And I'm not a K through 12 educator, but I've read that that's so powerful for kids. Self-image and how they feel about themselves. And that connects back to the emotional intelligence. So I look forward to your article.
Yeah, go to docdphd.com as he has on there. So thank you, Dr. O. Yeah, right? Sorry.
Hey.
Right, Doc? Yeah. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Great stuff. Beautifully said. And thank you for sharing all that. I've got some more comments, but we're out of time. So anyway, so thank you. I'm going to close the session now. And I very much appreciate you stopping by and giving us your wisdom. So
thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
thank
sir.
you, everyone else. Great to meet everybody, and best of luck and happy birthday, Matt. And I'm looking forward to this summer. You're coming to my class again. Excited.
Very fun. Yeah.
Thank you.